Stephon Marbury was supposed to be the next big thing in the NBA, but ended up eating Vaseline on YouTube, a point guard with Hall of Fame talent, a statue in Beijing, and beef with just about everyone along the way. Marbury was insanely talented, but kind of insane as well. He retired at 41 with nearly $200 million in career earnings. Hopefully, he kept at least 10%. Not bad for a guy who mostly wasted his potential. This isn't fiction. This is the real story of Stephon Marbury. The best way to get a feel for who he really was is this one wild anecdote from his time with the Phoenix Suns. His teammate, Casey Jacobson, was sitting on the team plane one day when he heard Steph's voice. "Yo, come sit over here. I gotta show you something." Casey thought it was gonna be game film or something. Well, no. Marbury opens up his laptop and starts playing a full-on explicit video. Cranks the volume. No headphones. "Check this out," he says. This scene is wild. The sound is blasting through the plane. Stephon's seat was right across from the assistant coaches. These poor guys just sat there pretending they didn't hear a thing. Marbury, aka Starbury, the nickname he got during his youth, was just bursting with power and speed. Explosive as hell, with incredible ball control. And on top of that, the guy could shoot. His biggest issue? His attitude. Or better said, the dude was flat out crazy, which we'd only fully realize later. We're talking about a point guard under 6'3", throwing down alley-oops behind his back in a real 5-on-5 game. The first guy who ever pulled up for a jump shot from half court like it was nothing. So what was the problem? Sadly, everything else. There wasn't a team where Marbury actually got along with his teammates. Most of them couldn't stand him, and his relationship with coaches? He had beef with every single coach he played for. In Minnesota, Stephon had everyone in awe. That is, until he opened his mouth. His first big move? He walked straight up to the owner and said, "I want the same money as Garnett, or I don't care about any of this." At the time, KG had just signed the biggest contract in NBA history. $126 million over 6 years. People in the front office were stunned. After they politely explained that there was no way that was happening, Stephon asked for a trade, said he didn't want to be on a team where some country boy was treated like a bigger star than him. They sent him to New Jersey, and it took him, a month before the whole locker room was beefing with him? This dude literally wrote "all me" on his sneakers, and played exactly like that. He was launching shots from everywhere, while his teammates just stood around, pissed off, muttering under their breath. You couldn't tell Stephon anything. He played his game no matter what was going on. The motto? Better me over 3 defenders than you wide open. Perfect way to build team chemistry. At least in Minnesota, he got a little taste of the playoffs. In Jersey, 3 years, nothing. But hey, his individual numbers were fire. He even made All-NBA third team. The 2001 All-Star Game was one of only 2 Marbury ever played in, and it might be the best All-Star Game of the last 25 years. Believe it or not, they were actually playing defense, and both squads really wanted to win. Iverson and Marbury straight up took over, and it was Steph who hit 2 clutch threes in the final minutes to seal the deal. When it became clear that things with Marbury just weren't going to work out, the Nets shipped him to Phoenix in a trade for Jason Kidd, and the Nets took off right away. But honestly, it wasn't all bad for Stephon in Arizona either. That was probably the only stop in his whole career where he actually got along with some of the locker room. Coaches though, that was a different story. One day at practice, head coach Frank Johnson stopped a play because he didn't like how Marbury was rotating on defense, started yelling at him. Marbury kicked the ball across the court, started cussing the coach out in front of everyone, and then barked, "Talk to me like that again and see what happens." Then he just walked off and headed straight to the locker room. Still, in Phoenix, Marbury had his best playoff moment, game-winning against San Antonio, banked in a 3 off the glass. And of course, somewhere in all the little jabs he liked to throw, he made sure to take a shot at Garnett, saying Amare was a way better player at the start of his career than KG ever was. After a bunch of originally selected stars dropped out, Stephon ended up getting picked for Team USA at the 2004 Olympics in Athens. The head coach? Larry Brown. Old school, strict, tough, and he couldn't stand Marbury. The feeling was mutual. Even with Tim Duncan, Allen Iverson, and a young LeBron and D Wade, that US squad was looking real shaky. 2 losses in the group stage, and embarrassment was already in the air. Then came the quarterfinals. They were up against Spain, but then, out of nowhere, Uncle Steph showed up. He dropped 31 points and torched them, and of course, you know he made sure everyone heard about it, especially Coach Brown. In the end, that 2004 squad was the first, and so far, the only US men's Olympic team with NBA players that didn't win gold. Funny how life works. Not long after the Olympics, Marbury and Larry Brown ended up working together in New York. Marbury was back in his hometown after the Suns decided he was a bad influence on their young guys, and that maybe, just maybe, they needed a second basketball on the floor when he played. The Knicks looked like the perfect setup for him to shine. Hometown hero, massive popularity from his high school days, playing in front of family and friends? Disaster? Way worse than that. The Knicks had Larry Brown as head coach, and the moment he saw Marbury, it felt like he started doing everything he could to get fired. After every loss, he praised the other team's guards, loudly, repeatedly, publicly, and yeah, it worked. He got canned by the end of the season. Then came Isaiah Thomas, a legend on the court, and supposedly someone that players would respect. That era, that was the final blow for the Knicks. The only thing consistent during that time? L's. But that was just part of the chaos. Isaiah Thomas was spending more time chasing Anuka Sanders, a team executive, than running the team. She later sued the Knicks for sexual harassment and walked away with $11 million, plus legal fees. And then things get even wilder. Anuka's assistant celebrated her 21st birthday in the back of Stephon Marbury's SUV in a parking lot. Yup, you heard that right. Marbury had to testify in court. And that's when he dropped the now infamous line, "I asked her if she wanted to get in the truck." And just when you thought it couldn't get messier, it came out that Stephon had been having an affair with his family's chef and paid her $900,000 to keep it quiet after just 5 meetups. Marbury's wife turned a blind eye to everything, and in return, she ran up his credit cards relentlessly. At one point, she had $3 million worth of jewelry. Just jewelry, of course. It didn't take long before she got a call to join the reality show Basketball Wives, and she jumped in without hesitation. Meanwhile, Stephon was throwing money like it was nothing. He was the most generous guest at all of the big-name restaurants in New York, tipping waiters, cooks, even the dishwashers. He'd lace the entire staff every time he showed up. But on the court, it was a mess. Isaiah Thomas eventually benched him, and that set off a major feud. Things got so heated, it ended up in a quick fight on the team plane. Then, things got even darker. Marbury's father passed away while watching his son play at Madison Square Garden. And the vibe in the locker room? Cold. Most of his teammates didn't even offer condolences. That's how much they hated him. After Isaiah Thomas got fired, Mike D'Antoni came in and did the obvious. Marbury lost his starting spot completely, and D'Antoni, being the chill, easygoing guy he is, told the media, "Hey, Steph can still play 35 minutes if he's feeling it, if his shot's falling." Marbury? He wasn't trying to hear any of that. His response? He went and tattooed the logo of his own sneaker brand on his head. Full Mike Tyson style. Now, those kicks, the Starburys, sold for just $15, made for low-income families. And he even called out Michael Jordan for being greedy. Said MJ's sneakers were way too expensive for regular folks. Can't blame him for that. It was pretty clear something wasn't right with Marbury mentally. At one point, he showed up on live TV completely out of it, clearly high on weed, and started talking absolute nonsense. Just rambling. The segment had to be cut short after he looked at his phone, saw his wife's number pop up, and said, that bitch is calling me. Then came the final straw with the Knicks. After refusing to check into a game, the team had enough. They went full shutdown mode, banned him from games, practices, even the building. So how did Steph respond? Classic. He went out and bought courtside tickets at Staples Center for a Knicks-Lakers game. Yep. Showed up in another city, 5 feet from the Knicks bench. Jokes aside, it started to feel like we might be watching a total breakdown in real time. He was posting wild videos on YouTube, one of them showing him eating Vaseline to cure a sore throat while some dude was massaging his back. He was crying one second, then rambling about how brilliant he was the next. At one point, he looked straight into the camera and talked about ending it all. It got dark. Real dark. The last coach who tried to revive his NBA career was Doc Rivers. Boston needed a veteran off the bench, someone who could give them a scoring spark. They gave it a shot, but it didn't really work out. Still, Marbury actually played more playoff games with the Celtics than he did with all his other teams combined. At that point, a lot of people thought the next time they heard about Stephon Marbury, it would be a tragedy. But then, out of nowhere, China. Nobody really knows why he went over there, but it turned out to be a gift from the universe. For those who knew a little about the situation, the main reason seemed to be money. His debts were piling up. But stepping away from New York, away from the chaos, looking back now, it probably saved his life. In China, fans were lining up just to get an autograph or take a picture with him. And after every championship, Marbury would break down in tears like he'd just beaten Jordan's Bulls in Game 7. He gave away money to people who needed it, without a second thought. Say what you want about him, but stingy? That's one label he never earned. The highlight? A statue of him in Beijing. And who was there to speak at the unveiling? Of course, Dennis Rodman. When he finally wrapped up his career, 22 years long, Marbury didn't hesitate to say, "I deserve a spot in the Hall of Fame." And when you look at it, 19 points and 8 assists per game over 14 NBA seasons, that's nothing to laugh at. But with all the drama, all the off-court chaos, he pretty much blew any real shot at the Hall. Talent-wise, he could have been right there next to Allen Iverson, but when it was all said and done, he didn't come close. Still, from another angle, this man's life, ever since he was 15, has been like some kind of psychedelic movie. A total mix of madness, brilliance, and pain. And yet, it kind of feels like it's got a happy ending. Because truth is, basketball was never the problem for Stephon Marbury. Everything else was.